Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and today we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay. And this is my From Bakelite to Bangles to Versace edition. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give a shameless plug for my Storage for Resellers Special Edition that will be coming up later in the week, and hopefully it will be very interesting and also somewhat humorous. For example, obviously this is storage taken way too far. But seriously, I will be doing a Resellers Practical and Efficient Storage Solutions edition, and hopefully we'll have some fun with that, and that will be later on in the week. It will also include some really cool vintage ideas from the 60s and 70s for those who like to have the additional retro look, but it won't be the one you just saw, trust me. So moving right along, this week I have a Bakelite. It's a caramel Bakelite Anchor Pin, and actually, Bakelite does very well on eBay. This particular item was about 2.5 inches long. It was homemade, made into a pin, and I sold this for $39.99. Also, I recently sold two Jessica Kagan Cushman bangles. One was Get This Party Started, and the other one was Because I Said So. That's why. And those sold for $25 and $20 respectively. And here is the other Jessica Kagan Cushman bangle that sold for $20. Guys, keep in mind that these are all items that sold within the last 6 months, but are beyond 90 days. And I do that because, as you guys well know from Facebook groups and just from looking at eBay sellers who talk on YouTube, there's always a slim percentage of nut jobs who stalk these people. So the way I like to share my things is beyond 90 days because they are very difficult to find. And however, I pick timeless items. So if you go and you look at the closed auctions, you will see that these items generally do consistently well. However, the usual long little worded disclaimer, your mileage may vary depending on your skill and the quality of the item that you're offering. However, I have been doing this for a very long time, and I am telling you, in my opinion, items that I think do very well and do so on a consistent basis, if you know what you're doing. Okay, everybody, this is a white crocheted tablecloth, or also could be used as a bedspread. You may have seen these growing up if you were a child of the 70s, 80s, and before that. Obviously, there are a lot more rare to see unless you're looking in Martha Stewart or one of those magazines. However, a lot of people buy these, and mine had a lot of breaks in it, and there were a few stains. Even then, oh, and I forgot to measure this. It's probably like the equivalent of what would a like a regular size bedspread would be. But I posted it, and it sold under 2 months for $30. Oh gosh, and I forgot to mention, now that we're getting close to spring, it's now March 2016, as we get into spring, people become more jumpy, they get spring fever, and they start buying basically a lot of things you'd find at Bed Bath & Beyond. Whether they're vintage or current, people will begin looking for linens. Not sure exactly why that is, but trust me, from now into the summer, linens such as anything from vintage tablecloths to hankies, so forth and so on, are going to really pick up. So now's the time to get those things out, clean them, steam them, get them ready, and put them up for good prices. And the next item I sold is this wig. It's brand new with the tags. I picked this up at the Weigh and Go, and I often pick up wigs when I see them, as long as they're in good condition. If they're not new, I will lot them up and sell them as a lot. If they have the tags, I generally sell them individually, and this particular one I sold for $24, which included free shipping, and I sold this in about 3 weeks. And moving right along, I picked up this Versace tie at Weigh and Go. I authenticated it, and you can learn how to authenticate Versace and other brands online. Some are easier to authenticate than others. And this particular tie, even though it had a few very small stains on it, I still was able to get, I put it up for $32.99 and I got a best offer for $25 and I took it. And I posted that, I would say, about 4 weeks before it's sold. So again, every once in a while, even if something has a little stain on it, it's worth picking up. Make sure you note that in your auction. But don't be afraid to do it because people are still interested in items even if they have some minor flaws. Okay, so here's a dumb mistake. First of all, these are all vintage coloring pencils. Most of them are Venus brand, and I picked up about 30 of these and sold them in a lot loose for $27, and they sold right away. So right away I knew, like, I screwed up something. So I went and I looked, and upon further research I found that certain types of vintage coloring pencils, such as Venus, can be sold up to $200 for a lot of 40. So that's what happens when you don't check things that you probably should and throw them up. You screw up. In this case, I'm not afraid to admit it, I made a big old blunder. It happens. Which, by the way, again, shameless plug, I do eBay fails every couple weeks or so of things that got away from me. And I do that for fun, just to point out that, you know, even people who've been doing this for quite a while do make mistakes. But anyway, sold this for $26, could have gotten a lot more for it, but there you have it. And this is a lot of 20 vintage booklets on how to crochet doilies, hats, bags, and so forth. As you can see, these are probably date back into the 30s through the late 50s, and I got these at a yard sale for about a dime, and I sold these for 23 bucks with free shipping, and I sent them media mail, so I probably made a net maybe a little around, 18 bucks or so. Not bad. This is a vintage cookie mold, a rolling pin, and it's got some really cool folk art carvings on it. You would be surprised to learn that unless these are from Germany or extremely old, you can't get a heck of a lot for these. However, I did get mine sold for $25, and while that's not bad, I sure as heck would have loved to have gotten much more for it, because it's an item that looks like it should do better than what they generally do. But anyway, I was happy to get 25 bucks for it. I picked it up at the Weigh and Go, so I didn't do too bad on this either. In general, a good item to be on the lookout for are licensed or items that would probably be scarce if you really thought about it. Stationery sets, the paper and envelope sets that your parents would sit down and write a good old-fashioned long letter to Aunt Nellie or something along those lines. You get what I mean. This particular set was incomplete. It had 7 pages of stationery, 1 note card, and 9 envelopes within that set. It's the Harrods Bear, which is what makes this an interesting item to pick up. And I sold this in under 2 weeks for $22, shipped at media mail. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the difference between antique Chinese textile that was made for export and an antique Chinese item that was simply mashed together and had a border put around it and sold, that wasn't really made for export but ended up being for export. The first one we're looking at is a panel, and these are antique Chinese armbands. And what they did was they would put the armbands and lightly sew them together in the middle, and then they would put this garish couple of borders around the silk embroidered middle. And these were generally from the 1920s or so, these borders, and they were just kind of slapped on, glued on. And if you turn the panel over, you'll generally see a stamp on the back indicating whether it was for export or not. This is a particularly nice panel because they are armbands, so conceivably they could be repurposed and put on a robe. This measured about 26 inches by 13¼ and I posted these towards the end of Thanksgiving, and they sold within a week and a half for $79. This panel is an example of a design that was likely made for export towards the anywhere between the 1920s and late 30s. It is not as ornate as what you would see some designs coming out for export to be. This is an orange silk with floral embroidery and butterflies, and in general it was meant for, you know, felicity, good luck, yada yada yada, that sort of thing. And they were sold for export or for tourists to come and they'd look around, they'd pick up a bauble and go home with it, and this would probably be among those baubles that they would bring back. This one sold around the same time frame, but it probably took about, let me see here, I put up towards the end of Thanksgiving. Actually, I sold this shortly, oh, that's not bad. I sold this within a week and a half. So I actually sold this before the other one I just showed you. I did take a best offer on it for $67 and shipped this to a gentleman living in China. Alright, so at the end of my what sold videos, I like to do, like a grand finale as the last item, so to speak. And this definitely takes the cake as one of those items. I got this at a specialty auction of vintage clothing and accessories towards the beginning of November and of 2015. And it was one of these things, we're getting towards the end of the auction, and if you go into an auction, maybe you know what I'm talking about. It's that moment where everybody's brain seems to go on like a temporary vacation except yours. And in my case, they held up this this is an antique clergy vestment. It's part of a robe. It would have been worn underneath another robe. And it's basically like a skirt. And I mean no disrespect for anyone who wears these, but it's kind of strange looking. I mean, just picture like a big lace panel worn as a skirt with a cross in the middle, like what you're seeing there. And that is what I picked up. And I don't know whether people didn't recognize it or maybe they were just exhausted, because we were probably, let's see, I mean, people got there around 8 a.m. We were probably hitting around 4:30 p.m. So in any event, I picked this thing up for a shocking low price of $15. I kid you not. This is mostly tape lace, mostly handmade, and it's an incredible piece. Now, it would have normally had like a blouse sewn to the top of it. This was taken off the top piece so as to form basically a skirt. So I don't know, maybe people didn't recognize it, but I picked it up. I went home that night, I posted it, and it sold actually the next morning. And again, this is how you know that you underprice something. It went for $250 to a minister in Ohio. So $15 into $250 within a very short period of time. Not bad. Thank you, people at the auction, for collectively taking a nut off. And there you have it. That is what's sold with Eve Everett. And again, please please subscribe, and if you have any questions, hit me up at eve@eveeverett.com, and I hope you guys will subscribe so that we can hang out. All right, take care, y'all, and happy hunting.